Hello and welcome to episode 92 of Mo Money, Investing in Economics Show for Millennials by a Millennial, where our goal is to entertain, educate, and increase financial literacy for a whole new generation. I am the host, MC Mo. Now let's get to the money. In 2011, Donald Trump tweeted, "The Fed's reckless monetary policy is going to create record inflation." At the time, he was attacking the Federal Reserve's policy of setting and keeping the federal funds rate at 0% for such a long period of time. In the 10 years since, the Fed has raised rates to 2.5%. And late last year, they were talking about raising rates even more in 2019. In response, the market nearly dropped over 15% in just 3 weeks, causing Fed Chair Powell to panic and has since done a total 180 and now said they probably won't be raising rates this year, which has caused the market to bounce back and has almost reached new all-time highs. Now, just a few weeks ago and recently this weekend, Donald Temper Tantrum has accused the Fed of hindering the economic growth of his administration, and I quote, "I think they should drop rates and get rid of quantitative tightening. You would see a rocket ship." And this weekend saying, had the Fed not started tightening, the stock market would be up 5,000, 10,000 more points, and GDP would be a full percentage point higher. What a flip-flopper. The man who accused the stock market of being a giant bubble under Barack Obama now wants the same monetary policy in hopes of keeping the economy afloat so he can win re-election. But enough of the biased bullshit. Let's get down to the point of this episode: how the federal fund rate affects you. Now, we discussed the Fed funds rate in episode 38, but just as a quick reminder, the federal funds rate is the interest rate that banks charge each other to lend and borrow money in the overnight market. The rate is set by a committee called the FOMC, which is a part of the Federal Reserve. Banks are required to have a certain amount of reserves each night, so some have to borrow to meet that reserve requirement. Now, the lower the rate is set by the FOMC, the more banks feel comfortable lending money. The higher the rate, the less comfortable they feel lending money out because the interest rate makes it more expensive to do so. So what are the economic effects on you? First, let's start with credit cards. The median American household has about $2,700 in credit card debt. Credit card rates are very sensitive to the federal funds rate. The higher the federal fund rate goes, the higher credit card interest rates go, which means it costs more for consumers to borrow, which means that consumers will start to spend less the higher it goes. And with consumption being an important part of the American economy, that is not good news for the economy. So if you see the federal fund rates rising, you might want to pull back a little bit on using your credit card. Next is mortgage rates. History has shown that the Fed funds rate does not have much direct effect on mortgage rates, at least in the short term, unless they are adjustable rate mortgages or HELOC loans. Those mortgages are affected more by short-term interest rate fluctuations, as was demonstrated in the last financial crisis where many had adjustable rate mortgages. Inflation has more of an effect on mortgage rates. So when the Fed raises rates, mortgage rates stay low because it is viewed as Federal Reserve taming any inflation risks. So if you are a prospective home buyer, you might want to keep your eye on the CPI, which measures inflation, or try to get a fixed rate mortgage. Next, there's the interest rate on savings accounts. The average interest rate since 2010 has been near nothing, 0.05 on average. Many people have depended on savings accounts in the past to grow and preserve their wealth, but with rates that low, it's not even worth it. Even with the federal funds rates increasing since 2016, saving rates have not seen the same amount of increase, but yet banks are still making record profits. This has pushed savers into making riskier investments in search of interest, return on their money, which could be a bad thing in the long run. Up next is auto loans. Auto loans are very sensitive to an increase in the federal funds rate. Auto loans were easy to obtain in the past 10 years as the rate was near 0%, but even with just a few small quarters of a percent increase, car loans have increased to levels not seen since 2010. Automotive is an important sector of the economy. It creates a lot of manufacturing jobs. It consumes a lot of American goods to produce the cars. If auto loans dry up, then car companies have to cut production, which cuts jobs, which is bad for the country and bad for the economy. The final way it affects you is it affects companies. American companies are like American consumers. They have to spend. They spend money buying things for their company. They spend money paying their employees. They spend money on their bills, etc. So when the federal funds rate is low, great. Companies can borrow money for short term to pay for things, growing the company, new equipment, hiring more people. etc. But as the Fed raises rate, it makes the cost of money and borrowing more expensive. So companies who are going to build a new factory might decide to cancel. If companies are paying more for their debt, they have to cut expenses elsewhere. Maybe firing employees, maybe closing down whole parts of the company, which obviously, again, bad for the country, bad for the economy. Bottom line, any change in the federal funds rate is slowly dispersed throughout the economy. It usually takes up to a full year to really be felt. So although raising rates shouldn't alarm you, you shouldn't just ignore it. You should always keep it in mind that, okay, things won't be this good forever. I know it seems like if unemployment, higher interest rates on credit cards and mortgages and auto loans, and slower growth in the economy are the outcomes of increasing the federal funds rate, then let's just keep it low, like Trump wants to do. But remember, the reason for the federal funds rate is to contain inflation, which causes prices to increase while at the same time making your dollars worth less. Inflation has been mysteriously absent for the past 10 years, but like a snake, it can strike out of nowhere and cause a lot of pain. So it's good to be cautious. But that ruins Trump's agenda, and I guess trade wars with all our largest trading partners had no economical effects. It was just the damn federal funds rate. But hey, what do I know? That's our show. I'm MC Mo. Thank you much for watching another episode. You can find new and classic episodes of Mo Money right here on YouTube. For now, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, like me on Facebook, check out my blog in the link below.
Mo Money, signing out.